Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming in to the second day of our conference. This is welcome to the Ken Kennedy Data Science Conference. I am Angela Wilkins. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute. You'll be seeing a lot of me today because I am moderating. I would love to welcome one of my favorite people in the world, Dr. Maria Dunford. Dr. Maria Chatzou Dunford, and she is the CEO and founder of a company called Lifebit that if you haven't heard of before, you will hear about soon. Today, she is going to be presenting on some of her latest work, how Genomics England groundbreaking COVID-19 research environment has ushered in a new era in genomics data access and collaboration. I look forward to hearing about what's going on with you, Maria. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Angela. I couldn't be more happy to be here, and also give you guys, a quick update about everything that's happening in UK, which I believe hopefully will inform a lot of you on the status of the different things. So, without any further ado. So as Angela already mentioned, I am here to tell you about how the UK government has actually been responding into the fight against COVID-19, as well as what is the new vision that they have for their healthcare strategy, for the future of the healthcare strategy, that is going to be especially precision medicine based. Before we go there, let's start with the fundamentals. Genomic data, as you all might already know, because of the dropping of the cost of sequencing human genomes, now we are seeing an exponential growth into the numbers of the genomes that we're getting sequenced, not only humans, right, from all type of species. It is actually estimated that by 2025, which it's not that far away, we're going to be having more genomic data generated on a daily basis than actually the data from YouTube and Twitter combined. Already now, we are having more than 100 population genomics projects across the globe, right, that are sequencing the populations, and they are combining all types of clinical data with all types of genomics data. And Lifebit, we are working to provide access to all of the world's genomics and clinical data. Now, why the world is doing that? Because it has already been shown that if you actually have enough genomics and clinical data, and you base your diagnosis and your treatments and even your drug discovery on that, then actually you can bring the diagnosis time or you can speed up the diagnosis time by 75%. You can increase the chances of success of your clinical trials by 6 times. And already now, 1 of every 2 drugs approved by FDA is actually a precision medicine drug, meaning a drug that has been developed on the basis of a lot of genomics and clinical data. So when the COVID-19 pandemic hit the UK government decided to actually start sequencing all of the different patients that were having COVID and try to centralize this data and make this data available for research. So to do this, the UK government collaborated with all of the big research institutions of UK, as well as led the partnership to bring all of the leading technology players in the field. Illumina for the sequencing, AWS for the cloud, and Lifebit to provide the research environment that are going to be providing access and analysis to the data. This is an unprecedented effort, and for the first time, UK is well in to creating the largest cohort of COVID-19 data from 20,000 patients that have been admitted to intensive care units, meaning that they have been experiencing severe COVID, as well as another 15,000 patients with mild symptoms of COVID. Now we're talking about the whole clinical and phenotypic and genomic data for all of these patients, right? And we're talking also whole genomes. Now, this data is going to be combined as well with the historic, first of its kind, cohort coming from patients with rare disease and cancers. Once more, all genomics and clinical data. Now, the mission of the UK government, combined with Genomics England that is leading this project, is to provide access to this data. But providing access to this data is simply not enough, right? You also need to be able to make this data usable. And the number one problem we had to solve in this collaboration with Genomics England is what we call the Fort Knox problem, right? That the data were very, very siloed, right? So it was almost, the security had to be so tight that actually the data was pretty much unusable. The second big problem that we were faced is that a lot of these data are distributed, and this is a wider problem in this industry, where the data are being generated exactly in a Fort Knox siloed fashion, but in distributed places across the world, right? And even within the same organization, they tend to be quite distributed. And also the data are quite diverse. And what's the problem with diversity of data is that not only we're talking about different types of data, but we're also talking about completely different formats of data. So when you have different types and different formats of data, then combining the data in order to be able to run any analysis, let alone, advanced AI-based analysis, it's practically impossible. So those were the two main problems that we had to overcome, and every big organization generating huge volumes of data or trying to access huge volumes of data, those are normally the two big problems that they are faced with. The solution to this is what we call federated technology. So federated technology, when combined with the power of cloud and the right system, it can actually allow to access data in a distributed fashion, where data do not need to be centralized to be accessed and to be analyzed. And again, if it is combined with the right system that can enable seamless collaboration as well as structure and standardize the data, then this data can finally become accessible and usable. And this is exactly what the solution that Lifebeat provides and what we have been putting in place with in Genomics England. So it is a system that provides seamless user experience and collaboration. It allows people to run advanced analysis by bringing their own applications, right, from private or public code repositories out there without actually, but because of the federated technology, now these researchers do not really need to copy paste their code. They can just link their code, and then the analysis can happen transparently. And all of these are provided to the users at a cloud scale, meaning there are no bottlenecks on how many analyses users can run, on how big volumes of data they can run these analyses, and also, if there are any latencies where, because there is load and many different users in parallel run analysis, if that creates a queue. So there is no queues, there is no latencies, and all the users can run any type of analysis on demand and in real time. At the same time, the system also allows for maximum security, because it allows for many different levels where actually the data never moves from the secure environment of Genomics England. So the data always stay where it is. All of the analysis, as well as linkage to other types of data, is happening transparently. So then no data ever moves from its secure place. Now, the goal of this was very simple, and we are now, the platform is live, and now we are serving researchers coming from the academia, as well as researchers coming from the big biopharma and biotech side. Now, all of these researchers have a common goal: understand, especially in the case of COVID, why some people get severe COVID, while others get very mild symptoms or almost no symptoms. Once we do understand that, then what we can improve is the diagnosis of the disease, as well as the treatments. That's one thing. The second thing is, by understanding that, we'll be able to understand better how the virus works. And that hopefully was going to lead to new vaccines and new treatments. And as you know, UK is already pioneering several of those. So this eventually ends up being a fully end-to-end solution that, that pretty much allows to have increased genetic diversity. What does that mean? It means that for the first time, not only we allow analysis and combination of different data with the Genomics England data to happen, but also we allow this data to be now united with other types of data without ever having the data to move. And what does this mean? What this means is that all of a sudden, you can actually be accessing one system, right, that can give you access to tens of millions of individuals with billions of genotypes, millions of annotations, hundreds of thousands of clinical and phenotypic variables, and then be able to actually access this data and query this data as one, be able to run interactive analysis through very sophisticated data science tools like Jupyter Notebooks, as well as deploy very sophisticated AI machine learning algorithms that will be able to learn from the data and eventually facilitate predictions around diagnosis, but around as well as like different biomarkers and target validation for different drugs. And this is what now is being put in place. And this is not just for COVID, right? As I said, Genomics England, all of the researchers accessing currently Genomics England, they will be having access to the COVID data, but they will also be having access to cancer data, rare disease data, and soon there is going to be more diseases. And this is not just biobanks like Genomics England that we are working with and other biobanks that we are working with. The same thing and the same problems are applied, are faced by pharma, and we're working with a lot of pharma to solve some of the same problems, and also interconnect the data sets that pharma has with the data sets that biobanks have, and then allow, as I said before and highlighted many, many times, joint analysis to happen. And when you do that, then you are able to deliver better drugs and better treatments much, much faster. Why? Because to run any advanced analysis, let alone AI analysis, you need a lot of data, and you need this data to also be very well annotated and very well standardized. And only when you achieve to have that, then it's very easy to then deploy any type of machine learning or other type of algorithm over this data. And that's exactly what we are doing at Lifebit. And with this, I would like to thank you all for having me here and welcome any questions.
Thank you so much for that, Maria. I wanted to ask you about when we talk about data privacy. When you imagine, because you're going to have like organizations being able to share data, how will data privacy be able to be protected through that process?
So that's an excellent question. That's normally the first question everyone asks us, right? And I have it here. The most important thing is, if you see also in this diagram, right, is that when it comes to privacy, is the data never should leave. The moment you start transferring the data around, uploading them, giving it to different people, it doesn't matter if you have all of these, different parties signing, different certificates or documents saying that they're not going to be doing anything bad with the data. Simply, like by just giving this data away, you actually, it's almost given that these data are going to be compromised one way or another at some point, right? So the number one most critical thing is data has to stay where it is, other than being the Genomics England environment or the environment of a big pharmaceutical or the environment of another biobank that holds this data, because then these organizations can fortify all of those different environments to make sure that the security around this data is maximal security, is Fort Knox, as we call it, security. Now, your system then needs to be able to transparently operate over this data, right? So the system, the analysis, the computation comes to the data rather than the data going to where the system lives, right? So that's number one on the fundamental of, and that's what we call security by design rather than security by certificates. The second big thing, obviously, is like a lot of the when we're, especially when, for example, when we're working with Genomics England, there is a lot of like, we're doing a lot of we're completely anonymizing, obviously, the data. We are having, and there are many different ways on how to anonymize this data, which we are doing. Obviously, then we are trying to minimize the risks of re-identification by combining different types of data. Sometimes you can re-identify individuals. So we're taking many different complex solutions on how to address that, right? So I would say these are the three things that currently we are doing around that. And obviously beyond that, I mean, there are many technical things where, you know, when it comes to like firewall securities and cloud security policies and, you know, like different security levels where we are employing over the data. But I don't think you want you want me to go over that.
Yeah. I got a question from a data scientist, clearly. How would people be able to debug their code? Go back to the data and try again. Can you support this?
Yes, 100%. I have this here. So it's on the best picture, but like, so the idea is that how do you bring code into the platform? Maybe let's start with that, right? The ideal way to do it is like the whole world has their code into some code repository, being GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, somewhere there, right? So the ideal mechanism would be copy paste the URL to that GitHub or Git repository or Docker Hub, right? If you have, paste it into the platform and say like, okay, can you please pull my code from this GitHub repository, right? So that's exactly how we do it. So you can go and you can debug your code, you know, work exactly as you're working on GitHub, you know, do all of your commits into your repository. And then because now you have linked that to the platform, and the platform will, you know, automatically inherit these changes to your code. And that's the beauty of that, because this is a federated link. This is not actually you having copy pasted your code into our environment and then, you know, you need, in order to do anything with that code, you need to be working into our environment, right? It's number one. Number two, our environment allows for spinning, as I said, Jupyter notebooks, which are data science environments where you can do a lot of things, including code development. And we're now have different also editors that are spin within the Jupyter notebook for code editing. So obviously you can also use that. But normally what we see from our users is that they prefer working in the way they always work, and then just like any changes to their code automatically synced by the Git repository or the Docker Hub repository, no matter if you're deploying a container or code, right? And yeah, and then if they want to keep making changes, they can also do it on the Jupyters.
I'm not sure if this is a concern that has come up yet based on probably the use cases you've had to deal with, but how do you ensure that one does not need to worry about others scooping up their approaches? That is a security, basically a security for the algorithms being employed.
Yeah, 100%. This is all the time, right? I mean, so when you work with big pharma, that's the number one thing they have in their mind, right? Mm-hmm. So in the platform, you have what we call segregated workspaces, right? So when you create a workspace, only you and your team members that you have invited explicitly in that workspace have access to what's happening in that workspace. Also, do not forget everything is a federated link. So when you actually link to your GitHub codes or Docker Hub codes, or you link to other private data that you might be having in other sort of like cloud buckets or locations in the cloud, then only your workspace is authorized to access that, right? Mm-hmm. So only you can actually see those repositories, can pull in and can actually deploy the analysis and so on and so forth, right? So at no point there is anyone else that has access to your workspace and everything happening in your workspace.
Yeah, so it works like a Unix system, but it's just bigger and lets access to lots of people rather than just having to have a login on that server.
Yeah. Yep.
What happens to the intermediate results when using the data? Do these things have to stay with the original data? Could it cause a security leak if intermediate results leave the data home?
So yes, 100%. So there are different policies within Genomics England. In order to export results, there is an export. There is an export process, pretty much, right? You can think it a little bit like download, but when you hit that button, it's going to be having like, a new window asking you to fill in some information about the data that you are trying to export, right? And every time you export any data outside of the platform, then you are going through that process, and someone manually sort of like checks this data. And obviously, that someone is someone from Genomics England. It's not even someone from Lifebit. That is, it's a very trusted person, is vetted, and so on and so forth. Like, their job is to just do that. So that is the way Genomics England normally handles this. Apart from that, there are automatic security checks where pretty much they can check sort of like what is the type of the file you're trying to export, how big it is, and so on and so forth, right? But as you can understand, they cannot really read the file, right? So in Genomics England, we deploy both. We have automatic checks, but we also have the human intervention that when you export, someone actually has to approve that export to happen, and then it happens. And obviously, then we have also the third layer onto this is the legal layer, right? Everyone coming to this also signs all types of documents saying that they're not going to be trying to do something malicious. And then obviously you have all of the audit trails of that. So if someone has done something that, it's not the best, it's not right, let's put it this way, then obviously, they're going to be discovered eventually.
I would assume, okay, once you started hosting the UK data, then you started hosting probably data for other EU countries, maybe even over here. I would imagine now you have pharma contacting you, wanting to know how can they work with these other organizations, have access to their data and use it. Is that happening?
Yeah. The whole time. I mean, that's the whole concept. As I say here, the whole concept of this system is to have pharma to get access in academia. I mean, UK government started this program and has been investing tons of money to do that. So of course, and if there is any big research organization hearing me right now, any big pharma, which there are most probably, right? Yeah, please contact us or contact Genomics England directly and try to get access to this. That's the whole concept. Like, we want to make this data usable and accessible by as many people as possible, right? Mm-hmm. That can run groundbreaking research and can help with clinical diagnosis and can help with like finding, vaccines, drugs, treatments, really. So that's the whole concept of this. So of course, 100%. And as I said, we're welcoming that. There is a process, of course, on how you get access to the system. To guarantee that not any random person can actually access the system. But of course, also a small correction there, Angela, is not Lifebit who is hosting the data. The data are always within Genomics England. Lifebit is deploying the whole system over that provides access to the data.
Okay. We've been talking about pharma, but like, I guess on some level, I mean, it could be other academic institutions that want to reach out, or even startups.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Anyone can reach out. If you reach out to Lifebit, then Lifebit will actually help you with the whole process and eventually get you in contact with Genomics England, because at the end of the day, you need to follow the process Genomics England has put in place. But we make it, we help people and we try to make it very, very easy. And yeah, any researcher, any startup needing access to any really company, any research organization wanting access to this data, they just need to contact us, go through the process, and then they will be given access.
Well, Maria, thank you so much for doing this. So good to see you.
It's really great seeing you.
Congratulations on everything.
Thank you for having me. It's been really, really great.
That's our session now. We have another session coming up in 15 minutes. I want to thank you guys for all being here. I want to remind you that later this afternoon, we have more talks from basically on healthcare. And we will have a poster session, I think, around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Thank you so much.